everyone. Good afternoon. Who's feeling hustled today? Put up your hands. One person, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, great. Is hustle a good thing or a bad thing? If it's a good thing, put up your hands. Is hustle culture, does that, raise positive emotions, negative emotions? Let's see the hands.
Yes, total.
Okay, undecided. Great. So we'll be talking about that today. My name is Felix. I've already been introduced. I've been a VC for 4 years at Speed Invest, a great fund. If you're starting a company, you should talk to them. First day today as CEO of my own new venture in the health space. Yeah, thanks. So absolutely hustled here to make the stage and talk to my dear investor just before I did that. I'm welcomed on stage today by 3 great people, and we're going to be talking about hustle culture. Is it good? Is it bad? How do you cope with it? How do you get the good things out and leave the bad things off the table, so to speak? First up, Natasha, biotech founder, caretaker. Welcome, Natasha. Tim from Berlin. Former founder, mental health breakdown expert. And Alexandra, who supported over 4,000 moms with one of her 2 companies. Thanks all of you for being here today. So first, I'd like to just ask you to introduce yourselves to the audience really briefly, and just the elevator pitch on what you do, who you are, and why this topic is important to you. Why are you on stage today? Natasha.
First of all, I think I'm here because I support the goal of female founders. And I think it's great what they are doing, and it's really, really important and has a lot of impact on all of us, actually. I am a co-founder of a company that supports biotech innovation in Europe. And I do think that I'm a part-time hustler as well, as the struggle is real, as everybody tends to say. The hustle culture, I guess, I said that beforehand, is not maintainable, not sustainable. We'll talk about that later. So that's what I do. And in my second kind of job, I'm a climate activist, which is very frustrating and exhausting at the same time. So it's also a big struggle.
So you definitely know what
I sound like I'm going to break down right away. Seriously.
That would be great. I was told to optimize this panel for streaming performance. So yeah. Tim, it's on you now.
So you give me the sign for starting fighting, okay?
Yeah, anytime.
So my name is Tim. My day-to-day job is building the Nest by WebHelp, which is a growth stage outsourcing program. So, for example, I build the international customer service teams for WeFurb, Gorillas, N26 and stuff. In my night job, I'm also an early-stage activist, I would say. So I'm investing in pre-seed and do a lot of mentoring program. And I'm basically here. My journey is I had my own startup for 7 years. So a lot of roller coaster experience ended with me in a psychiatric facility with a severe burnout and a fake exit/bankruptcy scenario with my startup. So yeah, that's why this is my topic, basically.
Cool, thanks. And good that you're here. Who's taking care of your dog today?
I have people. Okay.
Other people are hustling. It's just a great pun. I have to keep doing it. I'm sorry. Alexandra, why are you here today?
I'm fine. Thank you for this amazing opportunity. I'm Alexandra Bada. I'm the founder of She's Mom Club, a platform dedicated to women, moms, family, and in the same time with companies. Today it's a special day for me because I'm celebrating 8 years of entrepreneurship, and I'm so happy to be here today.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And about our topic today, I think entrepreneurship, it's an amazing journey, but I feel sometimes like I'm in a roller coaster. I am up, down. So yeah, I think it's very important to share our experience because it's an amazing journey, but it's not an easy way. So sometimes you need some motivation or some experience to see, and mentoring also, it's very good in entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Yeah, great. And I can suggest it. Do include dads in your business model. I have 2 small kids. I woke up at 5 a.m. this morning, so I could use some of your product.
Like mentor, yes.
Cool. So I think the first thing that's important when we talk about something like hustle culture, a very loaded term, is to understand what are we even talking about, and then I plan to move into discussing coping strategies, how to handle it, how to extract the good bits, if there are any good bits. basics of hustle culture. So first, let's get talking a bit about what is hustle culture. You know, I think many people are overworked. It's not just entrepreneurs, even though we like talking about it on panels. What is hustle culture? What's specific about this whole entrepreneurial culture of overwork? When you hear hustle culture, Natasha, what do you have in mind, and what do you feel about it? Does it annoy you, or does it get you motivated?
The first thing that actually comes into my mind is something like this move, like every day I'm hustling, you know? And then I actually did some research, basically, because I was invited to this panel, and yes, of course, as I work with scientists all the time, I love to look at data and do some research. I was like, okay, where does this term actually come from, and what are synonyms for it? You know, because hustling seems to be something that is actually cool. You know, it's cool to work your ass off, which is 100% true. But at the same time, it's also kind of, you know, we tend to be like, oh, it's great that I never take a day off. You know, we promote ourselves through overworking constantly. And so I said, okay, where does this term come from? And I told you beforehand, it's actually from a rap song. In 2006, somebody, Rick Ross actually, started or did a song, and he said, okay, because of exploiting other people, I become rich and wealthy, and this is so cool. So every day I'm hustling. And when I realized where it came from, I was like, I don't want to exploit myself, neither nature, neither other people. So I don't want to be part of a culture that is about exploitation. So yeah, when I redefined this term for me, in terms of like, it's not cool to sing it, kind of, I realized, okay, maybe we could reframe it. So yeah, I think we should reframe it, and it's necessary that we reframe it.
We'll get to the new hustle in a second. Tim, you stand out in the crowd because I think of all of us, you were in the preparation that we had. Tim was the one who was like, you know, hustle, it's actually not a bad thing. What's your take?
Yeah, given my experience, I mean, still things that you can't build a startup and grow it accordingly without hustling. No matter the term, we stick to the word now. But yeah, I mean, really the border to exploiting yourself, you reach it pretty fast. And I think being dissatisfied with the status quo and wanting a little more and exploring new options, this is like, you have to have it. Otherwise, you can't grow your team. You will have trouble finding investors who really believe in your vision. But, and we talked about self-exploitation, this is exactly the point where I think early stage founders need someone on their side. And this is then what I call assisted hustling.
Let's take a step back. If you're comfortable, share a bit about your personal experience, because I think this was quite a strong personal story.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, so I founded my company in 2013, 14, out of a friend circle, basically. 4 friends, we founded together. This was a good decision back at the time. In the long term, it wasn't, but different story. And we were in this environment of pushing ourselves constantly, but we were alone. So we were in this Berlin ecosystem. We were doing hardware at the time. So, I mean, without 4 other companies, the ecosystem was not really there. We had no one basically telling us, okay, what to do, what to look out for yourselves. I mean, mental health is important. And yeah, fast forward 6 years later, there were only 2 of us left. And we both ended up in a psychiatric facility with like a severe burnout. I mean, I didn't even question myself whether it's normal to cry every morning in the shower. So because I was just so into it, you know, in just pressing forward, and the pressure was so high. And I think this escalation kind of points has happened really fast. And I can't even, now in hindsight, can't even tell you guys when it was. It just happened at some point.
May I add something?
Yeah, please.
I think the fact that we called it a culture shows how firmly or how deep it is sort of integrated in our today's society. You know, it's, you know, something becomes a culture when there's, you know, a lot of, you know, happening around it. So I thought that this was really interesting when I thought about it. It's not just a hustle, it's a hustle culture, you know? Sorry.
Yeah, and, you know, Tim, first of all, thanks for sharing. I personally think it's quite an incredible story. And, you know, as a VC, I would say 20% of my founders had mental health issues. And I say this kind of without judging. It's just they had issues that they needed to address. Some of them did. And actually, what you describe is really fairly common. A lot of teams break up because somebody just cracks under pressure. And then it's like, oh, is this thing, I wasn't tough enough? No, actually, maybe that was the person who was most in touch with themselves and just understood what's possible and what isn't. Alexander, when you kind of were invited to this talk, Hustle Culture, does it evoke good emotions, bad emotions? I guess you have probably among the people here one of the longer track records.
I think it is a mix because working in a startup means sometimes working 7 days per week. So yeah, you should cross a line between your personal life and especially during pandemic, I see this because I had online meeting after online meeting after online meeting, and sometimes I feel very tired, and I think it's normal. And I think hustle culture, it's about burnout, and this is a negative way. But I think, yeah, working 7 days per week, it's too much. Even if you love what you are doing, even if you are trying to build a startup with limited resources, because you have limited resources, sometimes you should stop. I should have my own weekend. I should have my free evenings to enjoy my family or my passion or my hobbies, doesn't matter. And I think this is actually the challenge for startups founders. It's hard to stop. It's hard to say, this is... I try to build a startup, so I want to put all my energy, all my day there. So sometimes it's hard to say, stop. This is my free time. Okay, so the range goes from, hustle means, and thanks by the way for the history lesson. I wasn't aware where the term came from. That's good research, and it makes a lot of sense. So it goes from exploitation to, you have a more differentiated take on it, Tim. I think for you, there is something positive about hustle. If it means positive vibe, getting things done, pushing yourself. And Alexander, you kind of, I think, also nail it on the head. It's like, where do you draw the line for yourself? And I think that's interesting because you talked about exploiting others, you talk about exploiting yourself. And then I think this brings us straight into the most interesting topic, because everyone here is in some way involved in entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurship, by the very definition of it, means doing something where there's nothing, getting something done. And you can't do it yourself, so you need others along the way. So let's dive straight into coping, or how we avoid the bad things about hustle culture, which is this exploitation, which is kind of crying in the shower, or just not having time to see your weekend. Quick tour of the table. I'll start again with you, Natasha. What's your preferred kind of, what's your mindset about it? Because you talked a lot about, you really need to get the culture out of the system, and what do you replace it with? How do you reframe it?
I'd say work hard, rest hard. But I would also say that, I never said that work is a bad thing. But when we basically say that the value that we add to society is only our productivity, I feel that this is a big, big issue. And when you're building the future, as an entrepreneur, there is the thing that we tend to forget the present. And I think this is really, really bad and very, very dangerous, actually, because when you don't realize that you're present in your present moment, each and every day in the shower, start crying while building the future, you're like, okay, you're not gonna exist in the future if you treat yourself like this, right? So I think, yeah, it's work hard, rest hard. And it's also raising awareness that productivity, there's so much data about it, that working 50 hours plus makes you less productive, makes you less creative. And I'm not saying, we are artists, but think about it. As an entrepreneur, you have to be fucking creative, It's about how to lead your people, how to come up with a new product, how to brand your whatever, So I think we should keep this in mind, that by overworking ourselves, we tend to take away a lot of our potential that we actually need to build the future. So yeah, it's about raising awareness and keeping in mind that this is really, really important to give yourself a break.
Yeah, we'll get into the specifics. Tim, I saw you nodding. What's your addition?
There's just little to add. Natasha really nailed it. I think it really comes down to your personal constitution always, right? And this being aware of yourself is something I wasn't aware of myself with 23 when I founded the company. I was drunk most of the time, and then suddenly I was a founder, So the thing is, in the past, I don't know, is anyone talking about work-life balance still? This was a term in the past, right? And I figured out for myself that I don't like it.
I do.
Yeah, okay. I talk about life balance because I always my work is I love it. I love the startup ecosystem. I love working in it. I love sitting with you guys. This is not work. This is, of course, it's work, but it's also not. And that's why when I rest, maybe I do some LinkedIn messages. I don't have this clear cut. I just constantly need to ask myself, how am I feeling today?
Is that, sorry to interrupt, is that, does that work for you, Natasha? Like this kind of, when I'm off, I'm doing LinkedIn. Or do you really, does rest hard mean really fence off time?
I'm really bad in resting hard, to be honest. I'm trying. I'm just being very, you can call me Natasha Gandhi or something. I sound very,
You're preaching wine and drinking water.
Yeah, exactly. Preaching wine and drinking water. But I really try hard. And, given the fact that there is a lot of data about it, I'm like, okay, Natasha, this doesn't make sense. Just sit down and chill, really. I'm being very harsh with myself to actually calm down. And this is a struggle, to be honest, because I'm constantly moving. But yeah, keeping in mind that I know that this is better, and that I need to be, to being productive and creative, I need this kind of chill moments. I'm like, okay, I can do this.
So I'm not sure I find this very convincing, to be honest. This is like,
I'm sorry, I'm just being really honest because, again, the struggle is real. Also, in being, being aware is one thing, and doing the right thing is the other. So,
yeah, got it.
Still figuring it out.
We all are. Yeah. Alexander, you work with, as I said earlier, 4,000 mothers who I guess probably are not all entrepreneurs, but are figuring out many similar issues. What's your advice on this topic? How do you cope?
I think it's very important to have few days for you, and I also practice for myself to be a good bosses, and I take some sabbatical days. And also for our moms and for our women in platform, I try to teach them or motivate them to take some weekends or some days off without iPhone, without any smartphone, any devices, without feeling guilty, because when you switch off your phone, you feel like, oh my God, if something happened, if someone needs me and so on, and it's pretty hard to switch off your devices without feeling guilty. So this is my first advice, trying to have maybe a few hours. If you can take one day off, maybe a few hours just for you, just to read a book, just to drink a good coffee, just to drink a Prosecco, I don't know, anything that you really love and you can feel relaxed. This is very important to reset your mind, to reset yourself.
And when you say take a few hours, take a day off, like what are we talking about specifically? I mean, I think this is actually the problem that a lot of people literally just take, I had one founder in my previous portfolio of companies. He was really happy because he, for the first time in 3 years, booked a 5-day holiday for himself and his girlfriend. What's healthy? What's unhealthy? Where do you draw the line?
I love technology, and I am also addicted with a lot of apps. I'm all the time checking my mail, my LinkedIn, my WhatsApp, but sometimes I feel that I need to connect and reconnect with myself. So I need to find my creativity. I need to find new ideas. So this is the line that I should close my devices and trying to get new idea and trying to reset my mind and come back with energy. I believe that working with a lot of peoples, you should have a good vibe and good energy and enthusiasm. So if you are tired, you don't have good vibe, you are tired and you don't have enough to give. So I think it's important to reset and take your time when you feel tired and you feel frustrating, and then you go back to work, to the people and give what you have the best.
But this is exactly like the point of being tired and working tirelessly. A lot of early stage founders, they need that feeling of exhaustion to really feel, okay, I did enough. Now, you know what I mean? So you always work too much until you have this physical experience of, now I'm tired, now I can stop. And until then, it's just pushing. And this is also, it sounds like a problem in this one.
And also, may I add something? Because I really, I think it's so great what you're doing. And you mentioned that you're a father of 2. But as we're at the female or at gender justice conference as well, where we should actually also focus on the fact that the hustle culture is different for women. Because besides struggling or mostly struggling or hustling in the work field, they also hustle at home because they do all the unpaid work. They do all the a lot of caretaking. And I think we should also keep that in mind if you're an entrepreneur and have female employees. If you're a founder, a female founder, and have employees that are having kids, men and women, I think it's really crucial to keep that in mind, that people try to show up, but sometimes their personal life is just not, as flexible as you wanted it to be. So yeah, I think this needs to be put out as well.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So just to be very, very specific now, I think let's break it down into two levels. One, you as individuals and founders, and then let's talk a bit about how you work with the people you work for, with your teams, how you kind of help them handle this. What are your... So we're moving into the hacking, the hustling section now. What are your preferred strategies for yourselves? Like, and actually, I'd love to be really specific. Like, how many days a year do you take off? How many hours a week do you work? And how do you actually feel at the end of the week? Let's start with that. These two numbers really briefly. Happy to start, by the way. So I have two small kids who I try to take 50% of the time, and so it means I work on bad weeks 60 hours. On good weeks, I manage to do my 45 hours. And the kids really force me to take those 5 weeks that you get in Austria, for example. But it's tough. Of those 5 weeks, I would say like 2 weeks are really clean family time, and then 3 weeks are like between gigs and bit on the phone and online and that sort of stuff. So that's kind of those are my numbers, and I definitely feel overworked many days. Natasha, what's your?
I would say the same numbers, actually. I used to be really bad in taking days off. In my former job, I was like working in a family office and was kind of and Hathaway and the Devil Was Prada. So I was constantly on the phone. I was always like stressed. And we do know that most of our health issues nowadays, because you're in health tech and a lot of health founders are here too. I mean, cortisol and the stress levels are the reason why most of the people are sick nowadays. So we should keep that in mind too. Not only the mental health, but also the physical health. You eat bad, you don't sleep enough, blah, 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 all of this. So it's not blah, 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 it's really important actually. And so, yeah, I'm like 25 days per year, 2 weeks of which I think I'm really like not doing anything. And I told you beforehand, I'm a caretaker. I take care of my grandparents, which is really, really exhausting and very, very time consuming. So this is basically a part-time job that I do on top of what I do. So this is actually what is really giving me the feeling that I'm completely overworked at the moment. Yeah, to be honest.
Tim?
I have a completely opportunistic approach to free time. I take it when I need it, or I'm in my day-to-day job. I work in the project business. Means if like a scale-up wants to expand and we need to make that happen, we make that happen, and we'll put in extra hours. But sometimes you don't reach me from Tuesday to Thursday because I'm in a sauna and have a walk with my dog. So this is
a really long hot box session.
Yeah, this is. But for example, I love working on weekends. Because just nobody is annoying me with extra stuff. I can just put in creative thoughts in my work. So this is really totally opportunistic. I have a dog. I need to take care of her. My girlfriend, she also works a little bit more in a free spirit kind of way. So we are aligning this pretty well, actually. Yeah, and in terms of holidays, I think I have. I don't even know how many holidays I have in my.
How much do you take?
Because most of the time when I take a day off, I don't even file for holiday because I simply forget it. This is still me being founder Tim and not being in the corporate world. I can't even tell you how many holidays I have in my contract. Mm-hmm. So
perfect self-exploiting employee. Yeah. Wonderful.
But I don't. Oh fuck! It doesn't feel like it.
I know what I mean. To have a word with your boss.
This will be on the internet forever. That's what you told me beforehand.
Oh damn it!
Alexandra, how do you manage your time?
At this moment, I think I work around 10, 14 hours per day. And during the weekend, sometimes I have some trainings or workshops with moms, with our community. So, I don't know, can be 6 weeks per day, can be 5, can be 7. It depends. About holiday, I have tested in 2020 because it was a bit challenging year. And for services, it was pretty hard to sell for 6 months, I take 1 month off. And before this month off, I was trying to be everywhere online, trying to help my candidates, my moms. But after 1 month off, I realized that you need 2 weeks to relax and another 2 weeks to enjoy the holidays. So I highly recommend. I know that it's a huge time, but 1 month means switch off and come back with more and more energy. I think it's the best. If it's possible to have 1 month per year, I think it's the best. It was an experience for me, and I come back with more energy, and I continue to build my businesses with more enthusiasm after 1 month.
Okay, so kind of taking a step back, you all three have very somewhat similar, but some partly different strategies for managing yourself. So you try at least to rest hard, even though it sounds like
while doing sports, that's my kind of doing nothing.
Okay, that's you doing nothing. Yeah, Tim, you sound like you're just very super flexible, frankly speaking, and you feel totally comfortable with that.
Yes.
Yes, that's great. And Alexander, you have kind of a, I would say, very grown-up approach about it, as much as necessary, as little as possible, for yourself at least. Really, just out of interest in the audience, who here has taken more than like 3 weeks, like properly off last year, not accounting for like COVID, your business was down effects? Okay, that's really not good. So I have to so for the camera, so like 3 people just put up their hands out of an audience
He's very
of
disappointed,
roughly
obviously.
3,000. So I think the evidence is really quite clear, is that you need just to function and let alone be creative. You really need some time off. And then I actually agree with Alexandra on the 2+1 week thing. Everything changes with kids, of course, because then you never really relax, but it's fun. Different level. So for yourselves, I guess you have very different strategies for just managing your own time, but except for Tim, I think both of you, Alexandra and Natasha, you feel like you generally work too much. Is that fair to say?
Yes, actually, my challenge for this year is to trying to be a good boss for myself, because I realize that I push myself too much and I'm trying to solve a lot of things in the same day. And this is my challenge for this year, and I hope to be a winner at the end of the year. I'm trying to set reasonable meetings. Actually, I had days with 9 meetings per day or 10 meetings per day. It was be crazy. At the end of the day, I have no words to say. I was like, okay, I need a break. I take my dogs and I go into the park without any phone. And now I'm trying to balance actually my work time. I'm trying to have also in the morning the time for emails and presentation and so on, and then to have meetings, and at the end of the day trying to check my list. Yeah, I have a lot of to-do lists because I think it's pretty hard to be on time with all, and I use calendars. Without calendars, I have no idea how can I manage all the things that I have to do.
Cool. Okay, perfect transition. So when you work with your teams, or when you think of the people you work with and who possibly work for you, how do you manage it there? Like, do you pay attention to how much leave they take? Do you how do you make sure that you talked about being a good boss to yourself. What do you, are you good bosses with the people who you work with?
So we have this kind of motto at our work where we do a 2-word check-in, because I think that you can't be a good leader if people would not be able to be honest because you're scared of you. So when my coworker or colleagues tell me I don't feel good today or I have to see the doctor, I'm like, yes, of course, and please take your time and don't say something like, I'm so sorry and I'll be as quick as possible. We had this discussion today. It was like, take your time and you'll be there whenever you are there. So I think I'm a better, I don't like to call myself a boss, but I think I'm a better colleague or leader for my people than I am to myself. You know, women tend to go very hard on themselves. I think men too, but but yeah, so I go way harder on myself than I go on my people and my colleagues. That's for sure.
Okay, yeah, Tim?
I think actually I was a terrible leader when I had my startup. Really, I was so overwhelmed with everything and so insecure about what I was doing that I constantly put pressure on my employees and tell me about company culture. I don't know, still don't know how to properly implement a company culture in a company because I think this is just not my ballpark. And I realized that on the hard way. Now I'm in the growth stage business, and growth stage business is KPI driven. So this is how I also work with my colleagues and the people that report to me. So we just try to figure out realistic goals. We agree on them and then do your thing. As long as you get there at some point. If you don't get there, tell me about it. But
isn't that exactly the problem that you look at, just you define? Because this is true. Like a lot of everyone manages their companies with OKRs nowadays, etc. But that's really just output. Does it?
Okay, so
do you look
maybe
at the input?
I was simplifying a little bit. Yeah, definitely, I have these inputs, these check-ins on probably on a daily basis actually, and I really feel. So I have now, because of my own history, I have this feeling about here's something going wrong. Or this is when you would ask me what did you get from 7 years of having your own company. I learned that trust your gut, because your head is doing decisions for other people, and I always trust my gut now. And when I have the feeling, okay, Natasha, something is off today, I will drag her into the kitchen, we have a coffee and we talk about it. So this is really important. But I also learned that if you are not working on this KPI basis, it's really hard to steer a team. And sorry, this is we still have investors that want their 3 to 5 times multiple, and
I agree, but you can reach goals without being an asshole.
Yeah, but I learned that, yeah.
See something even worse.
Our views just went up. That's great.
Yeah, it's going to be on the internet forever.
Yeah.
Keep the words coming. Alexandra, how do you manage people?
I believe that I am a friendly boss with my team, especially because I invest in their education, and especially because we have a Prosecco culture after each...
Tell me more. Tell me more.
Yeah, one of my colleagues and my associate tell me all the time that when come and work with me, she learn to drink Prosecco and eat seafood. So I consider that I'm a friendly boss with my team.
But do you drink? Do your employees drink at the workplace? Let's be clear.
Very, very seldom. When we have something to celebrate, we go out and take a lunch, and yes, we can do it.
This is also a good question. Can I address the audience more? Okay. So, how many of you guys really think that you can celebrate yourself? Okay, that's good. Because nobody told me that this is an important thing to do,
By the way, one way of celebrating yourselves is taking that holiday. A lot more people know how to celebrate than to take time off, apparently. That's actually a really excellent point. Yeah, thanks. Being, even more specific, I think we kind of got into an interesting topic when we were talking about kind of output versus input. Another quick show of hands: who, for example, does use OKRs to manage your company or to manage your team, whatever, or work in an organization where you use OKRs? Successfully, yeah.
No, different story.
Different story. No,
it's just cool to say
actually not so many people
using it.
because I think that's really interesting. So that's so a couple of observations. One was in the portfolio of companies I was working with as an investor, almost all of them use OKRs, and the very idea of these objectives and key results is obviously to set goals that you'll never reach. And you're really good if you get 70-80% done. And I work with, my wife works in public healthcare, and so she has 50 social workers reporting to her, and she was like, if I do this in my company, they just leave me the next day. So to dig a bit into this goal setting versus balancing what you put in and out, is how do you set goals actually then that are how do you hit the right balance? How do you do this kind of just actually start the other way around? Alexandra, do you say, okay, this is my goal for the year for the company, this is what I'll do as a founder, this is what my team needs to do to get it done, or do you really adjust to the people you work with? Felix can do a little less, Natasha can do a bit more. How do you do that?
Well, I think I am trying, and I also win with this. I'm trying to have my own time with my family. And I try to keep straight, actually. I switch with my phone, or I trying to be focused and to be in present. And sometimes I think this is the magic solution, trying to be in a city to take a dinner or a lunch, or to be in a trip and be there with all of your attention, 101%, as I say. I think it's important to prioritize all the things and to have life balance. It's not easy to say, okay, today I have an option to have the dinner with my husband, or I have a business meeting, but sometimes you should choose your dinner with your husband. It's an option. Actually, all the time we have option, and I think it's best idea for you to trying to mix it, to have the both.
Okay, so your strategy is basically just make the options explicit, be very clear about what the options are, and then make a conscious choice. Tim, how do you set goals?
So it really depends on early stage and growth stage. In terms of growth stage, normally founders approaching me or head of expansion approaching me, they have goals in mind, and we're doing kind of an operative due diligence and see whether the company is ready yet. Do we have repetitive processes that we can actually scale? And if we are not, we have 1,300 clients, so we probably know what to tweak and how to get there. So this is actually, again, pretty data-driven and pretty detached from the single human being. In early stage, where it's all about the single human being, it's completely different. And what I do with I mentor 10 startups on a weekly basis. So is that we always try, okay, so of course we build our vision first. What is this about? What do you want to reach? What is the company supposed to be in 5 to 10 years? Then we basically do a little cap table design. And what I always do with them is try to think from the result backwards. Because if you have a clear vision in mind, let's say, okay, in 10 years, this company should hit IPO, whatever, then you try to build it backwards. And I mean, every one of us knows that probably in 2 weeks this is not relevant anymore, and you need to check it again and maybe adapt it. But this task breaks it down into concrete action for now. And this is what I do. And this is why what I was missing as a founder was someone like me, and this is what I'm now trying to give back, is this assisted hustling, that I was so confused with press attention and people approaching me, and I was yeah, I'm the king of the world, and I totally forgot to work on my product and look on the important things. And my basic goal with working with pre-seed founders or early stage founders is to kind of separate noise from the important tasks. So this is everything. And this is what I'm doing, is going backwards. And you mentioned in our preparation, assisted hustling is your term. So I don't remember. Do you have do you get a counselor or coach at the moment? Do you have someone like that who's assisting you? I'm still in therapy, and I would probably. I will go on. This is great. Yeah. I can highly recommend it. So
I also have I think a coach who is actually more a psychotherapist.
Coach sounds less,
it sounds more businessy. Coach is what I tell my investor, and psychotherapist is what I tell my wife. Yeah. The two of you, do you have anyone that you use as a resource, or that a professional that you use in some capacity on that range of?
Yes, psychotherapist. Yeah. Plus, I do think that there is a lot of great literature out there. James Clear wrote about atomic habits, something there that you could actually, and I do love the reverse engineering approach that we are taking too. So there's this kind of so work-wise, there is this kind of, okay, think bold, think big. That's what everybody tells you in a startup environment. That's what you do. And then you break it down by telling, okay, this is the goal or the main goal for the end of the year. How do we get there? And then, you reverse engineer basically. And then you have those kind of packages for each and every employee. And it's crucial to have accountability and responsibility implemented in terms of do they understand what they should do, and are they ready? Do they have everything to actually achieve the goal? So I think this is very important. Just don't tell them run. They should know where to run, kind of. And personally, I think James Clear says it's better to tell yourself do 1 push-up each day and actually do it than pretend or try to make 30 push-ups each day without even achieving 1. So this leaves you behind miserable, really frustrated, etc. So I think this is also something, go small steps, think bold, don't forget your vision, but it's baby steps, You can't, think about Lead Today, Shape Tomorrow, how this amazing conference, sort of emerged, right? It became bigger and bigger, but they took the right small baby steps to actually, now we're sitting here, you know? Who knows where we're sitting next year? Woo! Yeah, seriously.
Some celebration is in order. Final 5 minutes. I'd like to ask you to just share like the two most specific, be really specific, like, you know, in wrapping up, two most useful things that you've done for yourself that you have actually managed to execute for yourselves, and one that you've managed to pull off with more the team or the people around you. Like, what are the most useful hacks, if you will, for turning hustle culture into something productive, something that's respecting of yourself, something that's respecting of the people around you and still gets stuff done? Alexandra, let's start with you.
Okay, I will start with, as Disney said, if you can dream it, you can do it, because it's about option, and I think it's your decision to start to change your life. I really love what I am doing, but all the time I want to have also personal life, so I start to realize that it's not a good option to be an workaholic. I know that entrepreneurship, it's a roller coaster, as I said, and sometimes push yourself too much. So I tried to realize the first step was to say, okay, I am a workaholic person. So, okay, I can stop for tomorrow, but I can try to slow down. So slow down, it's an option. And of course, I try to reach my goals and to focus on my business, but I also choose to have time for my family, time for myself, and try to recharge. I'm work in progress because I start to do this and then I forget and rushing in the business once again, and then I realize once again that I'm in the wrong way and I stop once again. So I think it's a continued challenge and fight to do this, but I'm still trying to manage this. I think the first step is to realize that you are an workaholic.
Making the choice clear, so
yes.
every day. Yep.
Yes.
Tim, what's your hack? 2, 3.
So basically, backing up what Natasha just said, I read a lot, and I always try to not only read fiction but also I don't know, yeah, a lot of mind-related stuff. And in terms of my team, the hack is, I really got used to talking about my feelings and about how I'm feeling, and this is what I also try to do with my team. We just talk about how we are feeling and try to get to the bottom of things, and I didn't do that for 10 years, and this was a major problem in hindsight, so I can really recommend you guys, if this is something I learned, ask questions, be curious about how others are feeling, and don't be ashamed of, just go into a VC meeting and ask the VC, what does VC actually means? You shouldn't do that, but just be upfront about things. It's okay not to know anything and still be the best in what you're doing.
Passion, I guess. First, work-related when it comes to your team and the hustle culture, don't forget that things that might be easy for you are not necessarily easy for your team. So it's basically, the kind of managing expectations. Second, be vulnerable, be communicative and transparent. So be the leader you actually want to be led by. So like be a role model. And this kind of sounded really romantic, but I actually mean it. The third one is it's always about the people. Yeah. So investors are people, employees are people. So don't forget that. And enjoy the ride, basically. I think we should not forget to live. Seriously,
have fun.
Yeah, I think at the end of the time, and my colleague who's sitting here told me a wonderful metaphor. She said there's one guy on the internet who calls himself the Zeitmillionär, the time millionaire. And I think we should all hustle more to actually become, time millionaires and have, at the end of the day, it's the experiences you've made and the people you liked and stuff like that is actually what really matters, And it's, so I think this is really, really, don't forget to live.
And because we just have the time, what are your big goals this year? Because now we heard a lot about how you're going to manage yourselves and manage your time and not burn out. What are your big goal? One big goal this year, Natasha?
Drink a lot of rosé for the next 2 weeks because I'm going to be on vacation.
Nice.
And I've got a beach bag that says rosé all day. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
But then you still have half the year left. But okay, I'll let you do the planning.
That was, and for the year, it's basically, of course, grow sustainably and reach the goals that we have set ourselves as a team and as a company.
Yeah, cool.
Of course.
Tim?
Before I have another question for you, basically. For me, this year is just, I learned that I was born in Berlin. I love the city, but it's not for me anymore, or it's not in that. I will move outside a little bit more. So
you should come here. Vienna is great.
No, I think I will move in the forest and celebrate remote lifestyle.
In the sauna.
In the sauna.
You can do that in Vienna too, but okay we'll talk.
Well, my last sentence is it's follow your dreams and learn how to manage your time and energy.
Okay, so that's really your big goal, actually managing your time this year. Tim, you had a question?
Yeah, so
don't embarrass me.
No, as a former VC and now decided to found your own company, what do you take out of your learnings from seeing so many startups in terms of hustling, and how do you want to implement your company culture? I mean, you're doing it now.
Yeah, excellent question. No, so I think
so well prepared.
And thankfully, I only have 34 seconds to answer it. So I think the one thing I always try to understand with founders is, are they able to scale themselves? Because everyone can get a lot of shit done if you really just work hard. Very few people are able to actually enable others to do the work you would have otherwise done better than you would have done. So. And what that means very specifically is I've learned, A, to talk about emotions and feelings. That's really important. B, I dedicate 1 hour every week to just planning the week. Everything is in my calendar. If it's not in the calendar, it doesn't happen. And for all of the people who work around me, I expect the same. There needs to be some process in place for managing themselves. If they're not managing themselves, that's going to be a problem. I've run 4 seconds over time. Thank you very much to our wonderful panel, Alexandra, Tim, Natasha. Thank you, female founders.